Thank you all for being here. We had to declare this a regular meeting of the City Council because, in case all of the aldermen showed up, we'd have to make it a legal meeting and an announcement. We always have to announce meetings 24 hours in advance. So I just wanted to welcome everyone for coming this evening. It's a very important issue that we wanted to let you know all the details about. I'm going to turn it over shortly to Chief Brown, who is the expert on this subject matter. But I did want to introduce some of the elected officials that did take time to come here this evening. We have our City Clerk, Joanne Ragona, with us this evening. And we have Alderman Jill Marquez and Joe Kenny. The two Joes are here. But at any rate, we have our City Administrator, Brian Vanna. Let me introduce the individuals that are up here at the dais with me. I have Chief Brown next to me, who will be the presenter this evening with all the details that you need to know regarding this issue of burglaries, the rash of burglaries that we have in town. Also up here at the table is Deputy Chief John Cooper and Sergeant Greg Charay. So welcome all of you for coming here this evening, and we've asked the Carriage Greens to see if they can't bring in some more chairs for this large crowd. So with that said, I'd like to turn over the microphone to Chief Brown, and now you can learn all the details about what's been going on and what you can do to protect yourselves. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Now, in order to address this problem, guys, we're going to need a lot more energy than that. So let's try this again. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. I would like to echo the mayor's sentiments by thanking everyone for being here tonight. This is a very serious problem, but I want to really begin and frame our discussion on the notion that we have to acknowledge that the same things that made moving to Darien and living in Darien and working in Darien attractive for us also makes it attractive for bad guys to try to come here. So it's going to be incumbent upon us working together to bring this to resolution. Law enforcement is certainly the police department's responsibility, but public safety is everyone's responsibility. So we're going to have to join hand in hand and arm and address this. So for tonight's discussion, there's basically four things that I'd like us to take away, things that we're going to discuss, and things that I'd like us to take away from this. Before we get started, there's some more handouts on this table. There's a sign-in sheet going around as well. You're under no obligation to sign in, but the more folks who sign in and leave their emails, the better we'll be able to communicate down the line. Also, there's coffee and water to your right, my left. So the four takeaways there's going to be an overview of what the scope and magnitude of the problem is. Despite the presence of this problem, Darien remains a very safe place to live and work, one of the safest cities in all of America. Understanding the problem is that this problem is important to the Darien Police Department, and we're going to do everything that we possibly can to address it. We're also going to talk about what we need to do in the future to make sure that we have long-standing resolutions to it. More often than not, what we do as communities, what we do as police departments, is we solve an immediate issue and don't engage in activities that are protracted and designed to stem this for the long haul. So we want to make sure that. And then the last thing I want everybody to take away from this is that this problem is a reason to be concerned, but not a reason to be afraid. And so we're going to tackle this together and make sure that we're winners. Now I'm going to give you a statement of the overview of the problem. I'm going to ask everybody to hold their questions until the end of my presentation so that you've heard the entire presentation, and then I'll be more than happy to address any questions that you may have. Nearly every community in western Cook County and DuPage is experiencing a problem similar or even worse than ours in terms of burglaries. Despite that fact, we're trending down in Darien in burglaries. Over a 6-year analysis, we're 20% down on a comparison of residential burglaries, and between this year and last year, we're 25% down. In early September, we identified a crime trend. There have been 13 burglaries in Darien since the 1st of September. In early September, we identified a crime trend. At that time, there were 3 burglaries, 2 attempts and 1 actual burglary. What we did at that point is we began to publish information at our city council and our monthly newsletter, and we assigned additional resources to the problem. On the 13th and the 15th of October, there were 2 additional burglaries. That brought the total to 5. At that point, we again started to increase our manpower presence, increase our enforcement activities. We executed a couple of arrest warrants for people with active criminal warrants. And there was no activity after from the 15th of October until the 17th of November. And that was the Monday that we had the 4 burglaries. We made that trend a full-blown pattern on October the 15th when we redoubled our efforts. Nothing happened for a solid month. And then we had the major incidents on that Monday of the 17th. So we have essentially 8 burglaries. We believe 7 are part of a pattern. The targeting strategy for these burglaries are largely on Mondays, houses that are on corner lots. The rear entry is made through either prying or jimmying a sliding glass door. As a result of trying to pry the sliding glass door, oftentimes the glass breaks and entry is gained that way. I want to clarify one point. We had a similar meeting on this past Friday, and at that time I identified that there were no pets taken or injured. Well, there have been no pets taken in burglaries, in any of these burglaries, but one of the residents advised me that as the victim, their dog was in fact injured. So I wanted, for the sake of clarification and to make sure that we're conveying the right information, the dog was slightly injured, and so I needed to correct that. The items being taken are small items and high-end jewelry, things that can be secreted. In one particular circumstance, the offenders left with pillowcases that were taken from the residence and put the haul from that burglary in those pillowcases. We're likely dealing with one of 3 types of burglars. We have the gypsy ruse burglars that have plagued, again, most of western Cook County and DuPage County. A ruse burglary is simply an attempt where the burglar identifies himself as a workman or contractor that you did not solicit and attempts to gain entry into your home. While they distract you at the front door, oftentimes a second offender goes to your back door. So included in your handouts is there's a protection or prevention for ruse burglaries. So please make sure you take those handouts home, and if somebody doesn't have one, and if we're out, we'll make sure you get one. The other type is the opportunistic burglar who is generally feeding some type of drug habit. This is probably the least threatening and it's the easiest to defeat. And then we have the third is a professional burglar seeking high-end items that are easy to conceal and easy to pawn. They actually target the residents. They wait for someone not to be home. So we're going to talk about some very specific things that we can do to address all these types of burglaries. So probably the most important thing right now is what the Darien Police Department has done. We've canvassed the community seeking witnesses and other information that we can follow up on, and we've gotten some pretty good clues. We've distributed information in the form of green door hangers to alert the residents in the community about the presence of the burglaries. We had hosted a meeting on Friday at 10 a.m. and there were about 55 residents at that meeting, and we got into some very lively discussion and some good questions and even better suggestions. We also, later that afternoon, hosted a meeting of detectives from our sister agencies, the agencies that have contiguous borders with Darien. Excuse me. And what we did there is exchange information and talk about the scope of the pattern so that we can make sure that we're doing everything we can as a collective group of law enforcement to combat the problem. We've dedicated additional resources. We've gotten some really good telephone calls about the presence of the additional resources. We got a call from one citizen today who talked about having a contractor come, and the contractor arrived a little bit early. And when the police happened by and saw the contractor just sitting there in the car, they stopped the contractor, talked to him, thanks, John, found out what he was doing and made sure that he was a legitimate contractor. So that's the level of scrutiny that we're placing on this. We've sent notifications to all the local newspapers. We kind of turned up the heat on this ourselves because it was so important. The reason we did that is we recognized that our normal means of disseminating information to the citizens simply was falling short. We're using Nixle, we're using Direct Connect, we're using the local newspapers and what have you, but it simply wasn't enough. So we redoubled the efforts, and so we kind of turned up the heat. So that's why we got the coverage. Plus it was a slow news day in the city, and so we got coverage on CBS and ABC, and I think it paid off really well. We created a spreadsheet to track the the tips and clues that we have coming in. We've gotten some fairly credible clues, and we are in fact following up on several pieces of evidence that we were able to glean from several of the burglary locations. Earlier in the year, we changed the way that we issue solicitor permits, and as a result of the meeting on Friday, the city of Darien decided to suspend the issuance of any new solicitor permits and suspend those that have already been issued. So you should not be seeing permitted solicitors at your door. If you do, please pick up the phone and dial 911. We spoke to one of the other takeaways from that meeting was that there's an access road that leads out to Bailey Road from the church. And we spoke to the priest on Friday after the meeting, actually, and he's agreed to try to talk to the Carmelites to see if we can close the gates on that road and lock them. That won't be an end all, but we have looked at that. So the other thing we're doing is one of the Alderman Kenny, stopped in today and inquired if we could use a poster reward for the information leading to an arrest on these burglars using our Seeds Money Fund. And there is a provision where we may, in fact, be able to do so. So we're headed in the right direction. We've asked the high school. One of the things that experientially that happens is if there's a truancy issue at high school, oftentimes the same children who are truant also commit burglaries. So we've asked the high school to compare their truancy list with the dates that the burglaries have happened and give us information if that turns out to be the case. We have 44 cameras registered, private video surveillance systems registered. We're examining those to see if any of those fit any of the burglaries that we're able to access information there. And we took a suggestion from Dan Salvedo from Public Works about having the Public Works responders check out the streets as well. What Dan Salvedo told me is that there's 17 extra eyes on the street within Public Works. And so we produced for them today a flyer that they're able to understand the scope and nature of this pattern. And so they'll be out looking as well as the police officers. So in addition to your eyes, the police eyes, and now we have the Public Works eyes on this problem also. So that brings us to what can the residents do? But before we go to what the residents can do, I want to talk to you a little bit about the philosophy of the Darien Police Department in terms of proactivity. We have a good, capable, learned, professional police department in Darien. We've implemented recently some new strategies designed to be proactive as opposed to reactive. We first got here, we saw a problem over at Darien Community Park. We instituted a proactive strategy for that, eliminated that problem. As a result of that problem, we saw an increase of problems at the McDonald's on Plainfield. One of our sergeants and I worked with the McDonald's management, and we got them to close down their drive-through and close down their lobby on between the hours of midnight and 4, because ultimately what was happening, there was bad guys who were stealing and breaking into cars, hanging out in the lobby of McDonald's and then trying to sell their wares, and so we resolved that problem. Well, all the decent people are at home asleep or because they have to go to work the next day, so they're not in McDonald's, so it's only the bad guys. So we resolved that problem. We looked at burglaries to the motor vehicle, and when I first got here, the prevailing sense was that we couldn't do much about burglaries to the motor vehicle. So I looked at a 3-year comparison, the 3 years prior to me arriving and the 3 years since. 3 years prior, 2009 to 2011, there were 272 burglaries to the motor vehicle. We've reduced that number by 118. It's a 41% drop. I can't claim credit for that by myself. The police department can't claim credit for it. What it involves is that we've worked together with the community. We've passed out the red hangers for not leaving your valuables in the cars. We've asked folks to lock up their cars, make sure that they don't leave valuables in plain sight. And so with that, we've had this huge reduction. And I only cite this to say that if we work together, these are the kind of reductions we can have in everything. When you think about it, 80% of our burglaries to the motor vehicle occur in an unlocked vehicle. So using just the figures for this year, instead of having 43 burglaries to the motor vehicle, we'd only have 9 if everybody locked up the vehicles. So in the same way that we can stop burglaries to the motor vehicle and reduce that number, we can do the same thing with the burglaries. So some of the things that we can do is to take a look at what the current pattern is. The burglaries that we're experiencing now have occurred largely between the boundaries of I-55, Plainfield, Lamont, and Cass Avenue. That's a huge area, but it's not an insurmountable area. We have to understand what creates the vulnerability. There are 5 basic principles that create the vulnerability. Familiarity with the target or the location, occupancy, accessibility, viable return on investment, and vulnerability or security. So familiarity with the target. That means that there's a great likelihood that the people doing these burglaries are familiar with the Darien area. So that means they could be contractors, they could be solicitors, they could be people who have done work in the area in the past, or they could be past residents. Occupancy. That's determined, the burglar takes a look at your home and makes a conscious determination as to who's at home and how much resistance he's likely to meet. Burglars traditionally don't want resistance. They want to come in. The average burglary takes about eight minutes. So the burglar wants to come in, race immediately to your master bedroom, scoop up all the valuables they can get, and run away. So that's one of the things we have to work on. Accessibility. The boundaries of this pattern create an attractive situation because it's close to I-55, Cass Avenue, Lamont, all thoroughfares that lead away and make it very hard to catch someone. Vulnerability or security. Do you have an alarm? Do you have cameras? Are your locks really good locks? Are they secure? One of the things that we've also done is we've tasked our officers with looking for open garage doors. We were experiencing burglaries where people were walking through open garage doors and actually entering people's homes through the open garage doors. Now, some of the folks took exception to this, but what our officers actually do now is if they find an open garage door, they close the garage door and alert the resident inside. Well, that's fine if when it's 6 o'clock in the evening, but when it's 1 in the morning, and it meets sometimes with not the happiest campers. So if one of our officers knocks on your door at an ungodly hour to let you know that your garage door is open or that your house is not secured, please greet them with a smile because they're trying to do the best they can to make you safe, okay? And then finally, return on investment. We live in what's perceived as an affluent community. Put yourselves in the burglar's mindset. Is it better to go someplace where you know you can get goods or where you're going to come up short? So we have to do a better job at making sure that we take away these options from the burglars. So what can we do? Avoid making your house appear empty. There's a lot of different ways to do that. You can put your appliances, your televisions, your lights on timers. You can make sure that you don't park your car the same way all the time. For instance, if you always park on your driveway or on your apron, when somebody who's surveying your house drives by and doesn't see your car there, they're pretty much sure that you're not at home. So now if your car's always on the apron, the car's not there and the house is dark, that means you're not home. The antenna goes up for the bad guy. Lock your doors. That's first and foremost, lock your doors. Change the patterns, whatever patterns you set. We all have patterns. We're creatures of habit and we have patterns. Change those patterns. Make sure your hedges are trimmed. Bad guys like darkness and concealment. Make sure your hedges don't provide it. Make sure your lighting is such. If you have motion lights outside, that's also a good deterrent for nighttime. What it does is even if you're home and somebody comes to your door or approaches your property, the motion light comes on and lets you know that there's someone there. Install a video surveillance system. And then once you install it, please register it with the Darien Police Department. Install sliding glass door locks or jams. Now, most of you have a lock on your sliding glass door. The whole premise behind these burglaries is that the burglar takes a flathead screwdriver and pries open that lock. If he wiggles it long enough, most often he can compromise the lock. So they make two things that you can use. There's an audible alarm system that's when it's separated by the sliding glass door open, it'll alarm very loudly. It's an audible alarm. The other thing, there's brackets that you can put into the door that prevent it from sliding unless you take the bracket out. Some of those actually lock in place, and you can get multiple, one for the bottom, one for the top. So it's really an excellent option. Don't advertise when you get new purchases. First thing we do when we get a 80-inch flat screen is we take it out of the box and then we sit the box by the garbage. And so everybody who drives down our street knows that, hey, they got a brand new flat screen. We want to avoid that. Avoid leaving even legitimate workers alone in your house. For the last few days, since Monday the 17th, I've been touring the area here down in Carlisle and some of the other places. And I noticed that a lot of us have installed new windows. I just recently had new windows installed at my house, and I had to leave the installer in my bedroom for about 3 hours. That's a very disconcerting thought, to leave a perfect stranger in your house for 3 hours. They get to know an awful lot about you if they have nefarious intent. So make sure that you're not leaving folks unattended in your private spaces that way, because then they know exactly where to go should they be the ones that come back. Be suspicious. Most important thing you can do is be suspicious. We as a community are reluctant to say, that looks strange, because we don't want to be perceived in a certain way. If the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, ladies and gentlemen, pick up the phone and dial 911. No matter how innocuous it may seem, don't hesitate to call 911. Be alert to strangers and other suspicious activity. Pick up the phone and call 911. Be alert to cars driving by your residence or up and down your block repeatedly. Call 911. If you hear glass breaking, pick up the phone and dial 911. Now, if someone comes to your door, Darien is not the kind of place where people get the wrong address. If someone comes to your door, knocks on your door in the middle of the day and asks for Joe Smith, and you're not Joe Smith, pick up the phone and call 911. Because it's very likely that this person is casing, looking for empty homes. And when you answer the door, he knows yours is not. This person could even engage you in conversation. Oh, well, does Joe live next door? No, Joe doesn't live next door. Those people are out of town. That's not Joe. Or those people are away at work. Or you just gave them a green light. So when somebody comes and they start asking crazy questions or questions that seem completely inappropriate, don't respond to them. It's ideal if you don't open the door at all. One of the other things we can do is start a neighborhood watch. In your packet, there's a checklist on how to start a neighborhood watch. We have an officer, a couple of officers actually, who are more than happy to assist you in setting up a neighborhood watch. If you want to give us a call, we'll be happy to do so. And then the final thing is engage in individual problem solving. If you engage in individual problem solving, figure out how to make your house safe, then all of our houses. If we're all doing the same thing, then we make Darien a very, very unattractive place to commit burglaries. For those of you, we have about 150 of these handouts. Please take a look at this. What it is a problem triangle. And the triangle involves 3 sides. There's an offender side, a place or a location side, and a target or a victim side. And that's what creates our burglary problem. And so the goal in looking at our problem is to break 2 legs or either 1 leg in the base of the triangle, and the problem ceases to exist. So when you look at this, there are bullets. You want to check off the bullets and make sure that everything that affects the offender, the location, and the place. Now, some of the offender issues are police issues, and we're addressing those. But make sure that everything that you as a resident can address is being addressed. On a couple of the areas, there are blank bullets. Use your creativity. We will help you. We'll come out and offer security surveys. We have house watches. If you're going to be gone away from your home for a protracted period of time, Thanksgiving is a good day. You're going to be gone all day. Or if you're going to go on vacation for an extended period of time. I spoke with a lady today who's going to be gone for a couple of weeks. Call and notify us. You can do it online as well. We have a house watch service that we provide, and we actually come by and look and make sure your house is secure, generally a couple of times a day. So please take full advantage of that. Okay, I finished my presentation, And you guys have been very, very patient under these very daunting circumstances. I again appreciate you all for coming out. Now I'd like to take questions, and I'm sure that there are questions. Someone in the back of the room, and then I'll come to you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I wondered if 911 works from a cell phone?
Yes, ma'am. 911 does in fact work from a cell phone. When you call 911 from a cell phone, it's immediately, it goes to the DuPage County Sheriff's dispatcher. Let them know where you're calling from geographically, and then they'll send it to DUCOM, which is our regional dispatch center. Yes, sir.
Yes, is there a lot of damage when they break into the homes?
In terms of ransacking or just searching the home, there's been minimal damage to the interior of the home other than pulling drawers out and things like that. But the entry is usually damaged, the glass is broken, things like that. But beyond that, there doesn't appear to be vandalism inside.
And no one has ever been at home when it's happened?
No.
I'll distribute these, I'm the president of the Carriage Greens Homeowners Association. We have 95 townhomes just east of here. So I'm going to copy these and send them out to all of our people.
Please feel free. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Have any of the electronic security systems been compromised?
None of them have been compromised. 2 of the residences did, in fact, have security systems. One of them, the people left after shortly entering, but they were able to take some proceeds from that location. Let me give you a short explanation on how an alarm system works. Normally, there's a 45-second delay. You get 2 audible sets of beeps. There's a series of long beeps, and then there's a series of shorter beeps, and then the alarm company calls to make a determination on whether this is an actual alarm or whether you've just failed to punch in the correct code. Once they reach you, or if they don't reach you, then the police are summoned. So there's probably about a 2 or 3 minute gap between the time that the alarm is breached and then the police are actually dispatched. So you can always change that with your alarm company and make it an immediate dispatch. If you have a really sensitive alarm, it's probably best that you don't. At my house, I leave my dogs loose and I leave my alarm on stay. And so invariably, at least once a week, I get a call from the alarm company that says, hey, zone 1 is going off on your first floor. Once they tell me which zone it is, I always know it's the dogs and I don't get alarmed. If they tell me it's the zone 2 on the second floor or something else, then I get alarmed. So that's kind of the way that those alarms work for pretty much everybody, whether it's ADT or whoever, Forest or whoever you're working with.
Chief Brown, can you do a quick favor? As you're getting a question, could you repeat the question? Back here, we're having a hard time hearing the questions.
Yes, sir, I sure will. Thank you. Somebody had a hand up. This gentleman with the...
Yeah, Chief, I live in a townhome in a Water Tower Court, and because our exterior maintenance is handled by contractors, we have people in and out all the time. And I think for anybody who lives in a townhome, you want to make sure to tell your management association to let you know by email that people will be on site. The other day, before the snow came, we had a contractor blowing out the gutters, and somebody was walking on our roof. And we didn't know about it. So, I did get in contact with the management association and said, hey, just send out an email, let us know. So those of you who do live in townhomes or have outside contractors coming in and you have a management association, have them let you know what's happening.
Thanks. Everybody heard that, I hope. I didn't realize, Nick, I apologize. I didn't realize that was you. You had your hat on. I didn't, and quite frankly, I didn't have my glasses on. That's really the case. So, yes, sir.
Do you know if any of the cases, the incidents that have happened have been burglars that have been armed?
No. And let me say this, guys. The question was, was I aware of any of the burglars being armed? Burglars are generally property people. They want to get in and take property. They don't want to encounter anybody. I think one of the things that's kind of got everybody concerned is the Indian Head incident that happened a couple of years ago. That guy was a professional criminal, but he was not a professional burglar. Professional burglars don't want encounters with people. Their whole goal is not to have an encounter with people. They resist. Dogs are usually an excellent deterrent. That's why it was exceptional when the dogs don't deter it. And in terms of a dog being a deterrent, it doesn't matter whether it's a big dog or a small dog. Actually, small dogs are better because the yelping is so aggravating that it deters people, whereas a big dog is barking. Yes, ma'am.
If there's 911 when you're suspicious or anything, I called on Sunday and I called from a cell phone, so I got moved from the dispatcher to the Darien thing. And whoever answered at the Darien thing just kept asking questions and questions, and then they asked if I wanted him to come to the house, and I'm like, no, I want you to check on the vehicle that I just reported.
Okay, let me go, I'll repeat her question. She says she called 911 on Sunday, and that the person who accepted the phone, she was transferred from the sheriff's dispatch to the DUCOM dispatcher, which is our dispatcher, and that the person on the phone kept asking questions. Now, it's my understanding, please let me know if I'm correct, that you were reporting suspicious activity someplace away from your residence, correct?
It was like a block away.
A block away. And so one of the patent questions is that they have to ask is whether or not you want to see a police officer. So that's why he asked you whether or not you wanted the officer to come to your home.
Okay, but the other questions were, as soon as he picked up, I told him it was a truck. I told him what color the truck was. I gave him the license plate. Then he wanted to know how many people were in there and if I thought they were visiting somebody. And I thought we were supposed to call no matter what.
But you are, but what we have to understand is that the person who's taking that call is going to relay that information to police officers who are responding. And the goal of that call taker is to give that police officer who responds as much information as they possibly can. And sometimes it's aggravating, but please bear with the questions because those questions are actually service questions both for you and the police officer. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't you dispatch someone while you're continuing the conversation? How does the 911 call work? Once you got a location, does somebody immediately start heading towards the area?
No, sir. No, sir. The way it works is there's a call taker and there's a dispatcher. The call taker gathers the information and then passes the ticket on to the dispatcher. The job of the call taker is to get as much information as possible to make the police officer's responses credible. They basically have a script because the script is the same whether it's a suspicious person or a man with a gun or a homicide in progress. Their goal and their objective is to get the officer the responding officer as much information as possible. So part of it is patience, but trust me, those are customer service questions. Yes, sir.
Oh, I was wondering, do you plan to add any more policemen due to the burglary?
We've beefed up our presence here, but we have no intention of adding more police officers. We've increased the patrol strategies. There's some other things we're doing that I can't discuss right now, but trust me, that's not the issue.
See, I don't see too many police cars, although I did see a couple tonight on the street, in our subdivision.
Well, please don't let the fact that you don't see a police car lead you to believe that the police aren't present.
Oh, they are driving?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have plainclothes cars as well as marked cars. Yes, sir. Okay, yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you have any leads so far for the burglaries that have just happened.
The question was, do we have any leads so far? And yes, ma'am, we do have leads. We have some eyewitness leads and we have some scientific leads that we're following up on as well. Yes, ma'am, the next one.
I've called 911 since we switched over to the new service and have been frustrated because they're asking too many questions. Just the other day, somebody was having a health issue here, and I'm saying, come to Carriage Greens, and they're like, well, I don't know where Carriage Greens is. Is there a way that we should be calling maybe the police department directly?
No, ma'am, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Say, oh my gosh, it's right here, and rather than calling the dispatch, and it was about a good 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, first off, what you have to understand is that regional dispatch is far more efficient than a dispatch. We don't dispatch from the police station. So if you call the police station and received a response, the person who answered that phone would have to call DUCOM anyway or transfer you to DUCOM. So one of the things is to always give an address. It's like saying...
Is there, how long are we under contract with that other 911 facility?
When you say under contract,
well, that you outsource that 911 from Darien to the other.
It's far more efficient. That is the dispatch center. There are about 28 different agencies, and in addition to fire service agencies, all that utilize that. the questions, and I can't emphasize enough that the questions that are being asked are customer service questions. And it's kind of like being at a restaurant. If you order a steak, the person doesn't know how you want the steak unless they, how do you want it done? What cut of steak do you want? What sides do you want? There are a lot of questions that go with it, but those are customer service questions as well. And they're designed to make sure that if you say there's a health issue in Carriage Greens, even if the call taker knows where Carriage Greens is, they need to know what type of equipment needs to be dispatched. Conversely, or simultaneously, we need to know from the police side, because there's certain health issues that we respond to. Frequently, we're the first responders there. We arrive before the fire service does, and if we don't have the right equipment when we jump out of the car, then our presence there is wasted. So we have to understand that there is a process, and whether the call taker is a call taker in the Darien Dispatch Center or the DUCOM Dispatch Center, the questions are the same. They're regulated by a society that mandates certain processes. Sir?
Chief, I'm sorry, in our Friday meeting, you mentioned there are instances where somebody's calling 911 to the call taker, but simultaneously, on a hot call, somebody's being dispatched.
If it's a hot call, if there's an incident in progress, there's a burglary in progress, in that instance, the call may be dispatched simultaneous to it. Even with that call taker is going to stay on the line and try to solicit as much information as possible to pass on to the responding police officer.
All right, and one more, because I know you don't want to hear from me again. But yesterday, I had Comcast over, and they were working on my television, and phone wasn't working, and the police officer showed up on my door, and he said, "I'm just making sure that you had a contract that was working," and and that was just yesterday. So it was in an unmarked car. It was great, but 911 I have had a little problem with.
Okay. Well, let me explain why that happened yesterday. As part of our investigative process, we've come to understand that whoever is doing these burglaries may be posing as contractors or may have actually served as contractors. And so when we see a truck that matches the description of some of the information that we've received, that the officers have been instructed to follow up on it.
No, I was impressed.
And yesterday was Monday.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Is there a plan to increase these surveillance cameras that you mentioned 17, I think there are? Or is there a plan to increase those?
No.
Or are they of any use?
Yeah, I mean, the question was there a plan to increase surveillance cameras, and mention of 17? I think you misunderstood. The 17 are 17 additional eyes by the public works individuals. We currently don't have cameras. Those are some issues that came up the other day that we're considering and that we're definitely exploring. And we think it'd be a good idea. The greater likelihood, however, sir, is that you won't see them, because there'll be covert surveillance cameras designed for very specific intent on addressing either this or problems similar to this. Yes, ma'am.
You know what, would a typical burglar be so bold as to park in your driveway, or would he park on the next block? Or like how close do they work in proximity to the scene?
It depends on what his intent is. Now, the traditional pathway of a burglar is to park around the corner. Let me repeat the question, I'm sorry. The question was, would a traditional burglar likely be to park in your driveway? And the answer to that is that it would depend largely on what their intent is. Traditionally, a burglar who's stealing high-end small items will park around the corner and then walk up and then go through a neighbor's backyard and then try to get to yours. However, if a burglar has been inside your home and realizes what type of items they're intent on taking, large televisions, large appliances and whatnot, they may in fact park in your driveway. Yes, ma'am.
What's the total number of officers that you have on the force in the area?
We have 34 sworn police officers.
And how many on per shift?
We have quite a few. I wouldn't be able to discuss how many on shift, because if I tell you exactly how many are on shift at a given time, and there's a bad guy who happens to be in the audience, then they can tell how they should work the next day. So, what I'm asking, one of the things that I did not mention as a takeaway from this, ladies and gentlemen, is I bring personally 37 years of law enforcement experience in a wide variety of areas. John Cooper, the deputy chief, has 27 years of experience and Greg Charest, the detective coordinator, has about 26 years of experience. So we're looking at pretty close to 100 years of experience in a wide variety. I need you guys to trust that we on our side, we can do it, but we certainly need your help. Yes, sir.
What should a resident do if they come upon a burglary in their own home, in progress?
The question is what should a resident do if they come upon a burglar in their own home? What I would do is back out of the house, get on the phone and call 911, get yourself a safe distance and observe. Yes, sir.
Chief, what does the suspicious truck look like? Do you have any, is it a van or a panel truck?
Part of the question was what does a suspicious truck look like? The information, well, that's a good question because we have several pieces of information about varying vehicles. So our officers are pursuing several different leads in terms of we have a white truck, we have a white car, we have people on foot. So that's why one of the earlier points is to be suspicious and make sure that you call. If the hair stand up on the back of your neck, if it looks out of place, if it doesn't make sense to you, pick up the phone and call 911. Sir?
You've been very specific about or you've been less than specific about where the burglaries are. Most of us live in a subdivision. Can you name a couple of the subdivisions that have been hit?
Terra Hills, Smart Oaks, some of the streets have been Chapman, Dunmore, Thistlewood.
Carriage Greens is out.
Carriage Greens had one earlier in the year and one attempt. Lake Ridge, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, back to the question over here, are, in your opinion, some of them, people have alarm systems that aren't connected to call services, that just have sirens, some have this, are they beneficial or not? Or is it, they take so long to respond, they really aren't worth it?
An alarm system, the question is are alarm systems beneficial? Certainly a monitored alarm system is more beneficial than one that simply has an audible internal alarm. Oftentimes, because as humans, we hear things that we just don't pay attention to. We're busy, we're watching television, we're going about our daily chores, and that audible internal alarm may not be sufficient. Having a monitored alarm system, none of these are absolute measures, but you're a lot safer, a lot more secure with a monitored alarm system.
But, all right, let me clarify the question. Is that the few break-ins that they didn't get anything, were those call-in systems or audible systems, or what scared them away?
Monitored systems. Most monitored systems have both an audible and a monitor to it. So the ADT, those types of alarms, the Forest, all have an audible component to the monitor.
So after the 45 seconds, when the siren went off in the house and the call went out to the police department, but the thieves probably heard the siren and decided time to get out of here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Nick?
So on a 911 call, if the caller's location, residence address, is the first piece of information that goes in, is that the first piece of information that goes to the officer who has a GPS to know where? How does that work?
If the question is how, when a call comes in and the call information is the first piece of information. Now, the only way that's the first piece of information, your location, is if you're calling from a landline. Okay, if you're calling from a landline, that's the first piece of information because it comes up on the call taker screen. It may not be the first piece on a cell phone call. But ultimately, unless it's an in-progress call, unless somebody says there's a burglar at my house right now or they're breaking into my neighbor's house right now, then that call goes out immediately. That's an immediate call because it's a hot call and the chance of apprehending an offender in the act is the greatest.
So should the caller's first piece of information be location?
Not necessarily. The first piece of information should be what the nature of the call is. And then that way, that frames the rest of the discussion with the dispatcher from that point.
Chief?
Yes, sir.
The other day, you discussed with people the idea of signing up for Smart 911.
Yes, Smart 911 is a location service where your cell phone actually provides a location when you call 911. So that's one of the many options. Also, in terms of notifications, we're asking everybody to sign up on Nixle. We've checked our Nixle. We're asking everybody to sign up on that. One of the reasons that the sign-in sheet for this meeting is going around the room, I'd ask everybody to please sign. is we're trying to create various email blasts. As I said, we had 55 people on Friday. All of them got an email the later that same day or the next day, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, ma'am.
When you call 911, when the first call goes through to the first call center, where is that call center? It's DuPage. Because what do they see when you call?
If the question is.
What is their, excuse me, I'm sorry, what is their visual? Because when I call, when you call 911, whoever picks that up it's not Darien.
That's what he said.
So you're telling them information, and then they'll say, where are you calling from? And you say Darien. Then you have to repeat the information a second time. But the first time you're calling, is that information who you are, where you're calling from? Does that pop up on the screen? And what information pops up on the Darien screen?
No, and if you're calling from a cell phone and you don't have Smart 911, the call is going to be transferred go immediately, you shouldn't say transferred, it's going to go directly to the DuPage County Sheriff's Dispatch Center. They will ask you where you're calling from.
If you're calling from your home, do they see that?
They see your address and your name.
Okay, because it takes 3 or 4 seconds by the time Darien picks that, because Darien, what does Darien?
Well, it won't see it if it's a cell phone. If you're transferred to the Darien Dispatch Center from a cell phone, there is no locator information attached to the cell phone. That's the reason for using the Smart 911, because there's locator information attached to that.
So what does the dispatcher in Darien see when you make that?
From a cell phone? From your home phone, if you call the dispatcher, he or she sees your home address and your name.
So is that information from the first dispatcher to the second?
There is no second dispatcher from your home phone. The home phone goes directly to Darien Dispatch to the DUCOM Center. Okay? Yes.
Here's the easiest way to look at this, folks. When you call 911, if you're calling from a cell phone, and most of you should know if you have Tri-State Fire, Lamont Fire, Darien Woodridge Fire, based on where you're located in the city. If you call from a cell phone, tell them you need Darien Woodridge paramedics, or you need Darien Woodridge Fire Department, or you need the Darien Police, because that's the quickest way to get you to the right person to get your service out. When you call 911 from a landline, they have the name and an address that's registered through the phone system, but by law, what I'm told is they have to ask to confirm, because they do find from time to time that information that pops up when you call 911 from your house is incorrect. And they want to make sure if you need help, they're going to get it to you, so they're going to ask you, they'll either say, is this so-and-so, and are you calling from this address, or they'll ask you for that. And that's why they do it, because there's been times that information's incorrect, and it's pretty good, but it's not always correct, so they have to confirm that. So I know it's irritating, all the questions that they ask, but they're just trying to get you the help as quick as they can. And again, if it's a serious call, what they do is they flash dispatch it, which means you won't hear what they're doing, but they're sending us, so we're on the way, but they're going to still keep you on the phone and ask for more information. Okay, if that makes sense.
Lady right here had her hand up for a while.
We're getting ready to use some contractors for windows, and they have the white truck that people are watching. So, should we suspend that until in the spring, since right now everybody's watching for the white truck?
No, you should. Her question was, is she's about to have some contractors do some window replacement or window repair, and should she suspend it and wait till the spring? No, that's not what we're saying. What would be a good idea is to let them do the work, and then notify the Darien Police Department that you do have a contractor there, a legitimate contractor, provided you're satisfied, you've vetted this person, and you're sure that they're a reputable dealer. Yes, sir?
If you have a computer-based telephone in your home, is that going to come up with the locator information?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't think it does, but next generation 911 is coming soon, and that's where all this will get worked out. All the problems we have with cell phones and things like VoIP phones, which work over the internet, all that'll be worked out when next generation 911 comes. And again, they're giving us a couple-year window for that. So again, if you're calling from a voice over internet protocol phone, you might have to give up more information because they're not going to see everything. They may have some of the information, but not all of it.
There's a gentleman back there with their hand up.
Exactly what is Smart 911 and how do you get it?
Question was, what is Smart 911 and how do you get it? It's a system that allows your cell phone to be located. It's a locator system for your cell phone. So pretty much the way your landline operates, when you dial 911, it picks up your location. It tells you it tells the dispatcher where you are. So you apply through or sign up for it through the DuPage County Sheriff's Department. Yes, sir. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on. Yes, ma'am.
I was able to attend the meeting last Friday, and I have to commend you, Chief, for following through on questions we had on Friday regarding stepped-up drive-throughs in our area. This morning, yesterday, I've seen at least 6 cars, marked and unmarked, come down my streets.
Yep.
So I have to commend you on that. Taking care of my with, not closing that gate, and a woman was very concerned, and I could, I shared her concern. You took care of that immediately. I received an email based on the fact that I attended that meeting, and if I had further questions, I should contact the department. I even contacted our sergeant at the table. He came to my house and did a security check and told me what I needed to do to make my home more safe. So I commend you for that. But I want to know where we are in terms of getting those surveillance cameras, because a lot of our subdivisions have these one-way in, one-way outs, or one-way in this way, and the subdivisions are kind of strange. I think if we got these portable cameras and placed them there, we could target those areas like we know where those areas are, and we could, have more eyes than the men on the street and the public service people. So what's it going to take to move to the next level?
Can I get you to trust me on that so that I don't divulge too many trade secrets? We started working on that on Friday, right, John? We started working on it on Friday. We have some issues with those in terms of maintaining power over an extended period of time. So we're working on the best product that we can get. And here again, I want to impress that you guys probably won't know it when they go up because they won't be visible. You won't know it. You really just have to trust me on that one. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Do you believe that the burglaries are connected? Say perpetrators, rings working together, etc.?
I believe that the greater likelihood is the 3 of the 4 on this past Monday, and 4 of the 5 that we had prior to the 15th of October are in fact connected. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
2 questions. Number 1, you mentioned that some of our sister communities are also dealing with this and you're working with them independently. How is Darien relative to those other communities? Have we seen more of an increase in these crimes, or comparatively?
No, it's pretty much comparable to the same. We're less than some and 1 or 2 more than others. So it's pretty much comparable. One of the things that we're hearing is these guys work in cycles and they move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And one of the reasons why we called the meeting is kind of like before we had VICAP for catching serial killers back in the 80s. Serial killers could operate with impunity by simply changing jurisdictions. And so the purpose of us calling the meeting on Friday was to try to nail down how much we had in common and what areas that we could pursue in common.
Second question, on Friday my wife answered the door and there was a Comcast installer who was soliciting business for installing security systems, and he had mentioned that he had specifically spoken with the Darien Police Department and gotten the okay to go around and do this.
Okay, let me be real clear. Number 1, everybody who solicits for anything prior to the suspension, did everyone hear his question? The second question is that on Friday, a solicitor who claimed to be from Comcast came to his door and was selling security systems and claimed that he had spoken directly with the Darien Police Department. That's not true. So what I would advise anybody to do, number one, not accept any solicitation from anybody that you did not individually contact yourself. Back in the summer, we had a couple of ruse burglaries, and we stopped a truck with a 17 and a 16-year-old who claimed to be sealing concrete. They had a pickup truck with a concrete sealing vat container, but the container was empty. So it's my sense, and we couldn't charge them with a whole lot, failing to have insurance, driver's license, and things like that, but we used it as intelligence. We gathered the intelligence from it. One of our very astute officers happened to see this truck driving around and stopped them. And so that's one of the ruses that are being used. So if you didn't solicit for a contractor or some service, don't have any contact with them. Pick up the phone, dial 911. Yes, sir.
I know you can't or won't discuss specific security manufacturers, whatever, but can you share with us what, if we were to put in a security camera system, what it should look like? What are some of the basic minimum requirements?
Yes, sir.
And what would you suggest?
What I would suggest is something that has a recording capability and recording and retention for at least 30 days. A camera system that has both night vision or infrared system so that it can record at night. A sufficient number of cameras that it will allow for you to cover all the corners of your house. If you have an oddly shaped house, you may need more than 4. If you have a traditionally, basically square house, 4 should do it. You want cameras with pan, tilt, zoom. You want cameras that are mounted high enough where a bad guy can't walk by and take a stick and knock them off, if at all possible. And you don't want them telegraphed necessarily. I would also add one camera. I know several vendors now are offering interior cameras. I would also encourage, if you're going to keep your valuables in your master bedroom, that you put a camera either just inside your master bedroom on one of the opposing walls, and or either outside in the hallway leading to your master bedroom. Yep. Let me grab somebody back here. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chief. We had a problem with Nixle. You and I talked, I think where residents may have signed up, they're getting something from Lamont. Has that been rectified?
Yeah, it has been rectified, and one of the things we wanted to talk about this evening, if you have signed up for Nixle and have not received anything from Darien, go into your settings. When you log into your account, go into your settings and make sure that Darien Police info is checked. One of the things, I signed up for it, and John signed up for it, and neither one of us got our own test message. Nixle. And Nixle is information. Go to nixle.com, and you can sign up for it, and that way we can send you notifications on something like this, and you don't have to get it. We're trying to expand the way that we communicate with residents, and Nixle is one of the options. And so if you have Nixle already and you haven't received, nixle.com. And if you have not received any notifications, if you only see you're only seeing Lamont, go into your settings and check the box that says Darien Police Notifications. Question? Yes?
If there's, because Kathy mentioned she tried that.
I did again today, and all I get is the Lamont Lost Dogs constantly. And they're annoying. I don't even know why it's being used that way. But I tried to go into the settings and just do Darien, and it's just Lamont Lost Dogs.
And you still didn't get anything? All right, what we'll do is we'll send out a text, a second text tomorrow, and then we'll, either Greg or one of the other guys will stop by and see you. Okay? Let me get a couple of others. Yes, ma'am, with your hand up there.
I have 2 questions. One, what's your take on closing or opening blinds?
Okay, first question was what's my take on opening or closing blinds? What I would say is alternate. If you leave them open all the time, it sends a signal, and then people know that you're not home. If you keep them closed sometimes, keep them closed all the time, then people assume that you're not home. Alternate. Sometimes when you're home, close them. Sometimes when you're gone, leave them open.
And then the second question is that I've heard from some of the other towns that are nearby that some of the cars that are being used are higher end cars, like BMWs, Lexuses, that are kind of blending into the neighborhood.
There was an incident, her question was, is that some of the cars that are being used in burglaries are higher-end cars. We believe that there was a pursuit from an interrupted burglary in Burr Ridge on last week, where I think it was a BMW truck that was used. So that information may be correct, but what we have to remember now is that they may be changing their MO as it's a fluid MO or modus operandi. So don't get stuck on the cars, let's get stuck on the activity. Everybody's heard the term profiling here. Profiling for law enforcement is a very legitimate term, and the best way to profile is profile negative or criminal behavior. If the behavior doesn't match the community, then it's reason to give pause. And so let's worry about the behavior as opposed to a specific car, because these guys are very astute and good at what they do. So what we want to do is look for behaviors, not vehicles. On the side, and then I'll come to you, okay? Yes, ma'am.
I have a coworker that lives in Orland, and when something like a robbery happens, she gets a call. She gets a physical telephone call that says, "This has just occurred. Please be extra alert."
We're looking at some other alternatives in addition to Nixle. One of them was Blackboard Connect that Downers Grove uses. We're looking for the best option. That's one of the options we're looking at. We've also looked at Reverse 911. What I need everybody to do is sign up for Nixle right now until we get something better. And for those of you here tonight, I'd appreciate it if you sign up on the so we can create an email blast.
Many of us have slider glass doors, and the criminals are taking bricks and throwing them through the windows. They're not jarring the door. It happened in my house. So I'd like to know what, if anything, you can do to reinforce a sliding glass door, other than putting a sliding glass gate, you know, one of those gates you see. They look pretty obnoxious.
Well, his question was, if the criminal breaks your door, sliding glass door with a brick, what can you do? Probably the best solution for that is the alarm company offers glass break sensors, and they usually are mounted in a room, and when the glass breaks, the sensor goes off.
But that's going to give, they're still going to take the time to come in the house, knowing it's going to take 5 minutes or whatever. You know, is there any other deterrent that says, look, if you hit the glass, it doesn't go through? Or...
You can put reinforced bullet-resistant glass, but it's not going to be as clear as the glass that you use. It makes it much more difficult to break. Or the rolling shutters when you're not at home, but those are both options. Yes, sir.
I think you can also put a key lock. We can also put a key lock on the glass side of the door as well, can't you? And take the key out, lock it.
The gentleman up front said you can also use a key lock. Most of the sliding glass doors also have a key lock.
With an actual key, not just a flipper, but an actual key that goes into it and locks it, and you take the key away.
I think his question was more to the fact of someone taking a brick and breaking the glass out altogether. So I think there was Mr. Gilson back there that said redundant systems are a way to go. Glass break and the glass sensor as well. Yes, ma'am.
I'm the anomaly from last Monday. But they actually were, you know, I don't know how I can actually make my place secure when somebody lets access to the building, because I live in a...
Oakmont?
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, if I can't get the neighbors not to, what else can I do to my own location? I've added extra security locks and all of that stuff to my own door, but is there anything else I can do? Because I don't know about really if alarms would deter them or...
Again, as you say, her question was that she's an anomaly because she lives in a condo building and she has a problem with folks keeping the doors secured. In your particular case, an alarm is probably the best system.
Right, because my condo was broken into last month. So
yes, ma'am.
So, but like I'm saying, so the alarm would have to be in my own condo or my own condo?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Somebody, yes, sir.
Just a comment. There is a material, I think from 3M, you can put on your door. They were using it in Chicago when the G8 was here because people would stop them from breaking the windows. It's not inexpensive, but it makes it very difficult to break the window. It's a special plastic that actually adheres to it.
It is a special plastic. It actually prevents the glass from shattering. It won't prevent the break. You can actually compromise the window it's a little, takes a little more effort, but you can't, it does prevent the break. Nick, yes, sir?
Somebody dropped a key.
Okay, someone lost it or dropped a key. I was confused on it. Yes, sir. Nick?
So, you know, we're all pretty adhesively attached to our smartphones. And so what's your recommendation with regard to taking a picture of that person who shows up to solicit or that car? And the resolution is pretty good on these cameras. So you can zoom in, you get license plate numbers.
One of the things I would encourage, if you can do that kind of thing, his question was, what about taking a picture of someone who shows up at your door or a car that you see? If you can do this in a non-confrontational way, but what I don't want is somebody is pushing a camera in somebody's face and getting punched by it. So if you can do it kind of passively, absolutely. I think that's a great intelligence tool. Somebody over here, and then I'll come back to you. Somebody had their hand up over here. Yes, sir.
I installed a security system in my townhouse last month, and it's got the glass break sensor, and it's also got the option so when I set it and leave, it will turn on the siren immediately. In other words, as soon as the glass breaks, and my wife by accident did something, banging a piece of metal against a piece of metal, and it sounded like glass, and the whole thing went off when we had it.
Gentleman brings up a really good point that you can make adjustments for those of you who have alarm systems with glass breaks, and you can basically set the sensitivity and set what kind of alarms you want. What he indicated is that he's able to get an immediate audible alarm that's really shrill and aggravating. So that again is also an option. So, yes, sir.
Chief, I have an alarm system in my house, but my alarm itself, when the doors open up, is programmed inside the home. Would it be better if it was outside the home, the alarm?
You mean the audible portion of it? Is it a monitored alarm system?
Yes.
An external audible alarm is usually more beneficial, provided you have a monitored system and your neighbors don't get mad if it goes off frequently. If it's not overly sensitive where it's going off all the time, disturbing your neighbors, it's certainly because they're certainly going to recognize it's something out of the ordinary if it goes off. Yes, sir, in the back of the room.
You talked briefly about security cameras, their view of public and other people's private areas.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Bad phrasing. Private property. So if my neighbor has a security camera, its ability to see my backyard or see the driveway or the street, that's all perfectly legal, or what's the perspective there?
Yes, sir. The legal ramifications are if you don't have an expectation to privacy, then it's not an intrusion or an incursion on your privacy. So, for instance, if you're outside in your backyard, the question is what is your expectation of privacy? Now, certainly, no camera system should be able to look inside your home or into your bedroom or what have you. But as long as the system is not is only concerned with the public, what goes on in the public, it's perfectly legal. Yes, sir. Okay, one of the other options that has been discussed in Deputy Chief Cooper and Sergeant Charay brought it up is the wireless intercom system. You can attach it to the exterior by your front door or your rear door, and when somebody comes, you can actually speak with them through the door without going to the door. So they're fairly inexpensive. They probably range someplace between $40 and $125 a piece, depending on the type of system you get. So that again is one option. Okay. Somebody in the back of the room, then I'll come to you. Yes, ma'am.
So can a homeowners association install a security camera on a street in certain areas, say a flagpole or a light pole that's owned by the city? Is that permissible, just to clarify?
You know, you probably can't install it on city property, but if you have if there's a private lamp in the homeowners association, you could probably place it there. And then that's something that we could probably talk about it, because if you're willing to invest in it, then we can probably talk to the city and see whether or not we're able to share the power. Sir, in the red sweater. Yes, sir.
This surveillance issue, for me, that's the reason I'm here tonight. I manage high-rise buildings on Michigan Avenue, and you mentioned earlier how you're using the surveillance, or you're looking into surveillance for your covert investigation. I mean, we look at security cameras as a deterrence. I want the cameras to be right there at the front of our subdivision, telling these guys, hey, don't come here, or you're going to be on camera. I mentioned earlier that, like, our subdivisions, there's 2 points of entry and 2 points of exit. If we monitor those 2 areas, if something happens in our subdivision, we will most likely be able to get them on camera if they're coming in or going out.
And here's the problem with a camera system used as a deterrent. Traditional police wisdom, and one that I personally subscribe to, is that the best way to stop a crime pattern is to put the bad guy in handcuffs and send him to the penitentiary. No, because believe it or not, a committed offender is going to find a vulnerability. So if we put a camera that deters him from coming to Terra Hill, he's going to find someplace else, or he's going to come and walk through Myers Woods and come up the back way. So certainly deterrent security systems are one factor, but what I'd really like to do is put this guy in handcuffs and walk him across the police lot and for video cameras and show him that this is not the place to do this kind of stuff.
Well, of course, that's the ultimate outcome we want, but right now we're looking for our protection. And other than armed officers on the streets, which you guys are doing a great job of, by the way, this weekend I was outside putting my Christmas lights up, and those guys were coming around every half hour, which was fantastic. But besides that, I know there's budgetary restrictions adding more police officers. Cameras, the installation of cameras is minimal compared to the light that you get out of the camera. I just really think it's something that we should consider. I'm putting a system in my house, actually. I just received it in my house today. And I fully intend on monitoring the street activity. Because if something happens on my street, I want to be able to look at my cameras as I do at my work. We solved a murder at one of my buildings just a few years ago in Michigan Avenue because of the footage.
You're going to make sure you register that camera with us, are you? Thank you. All right. Everything, trust me, in this dialogue right now, everything is open for discussion. One of the things, what I'm trying to do is trying to serve 2 masters here. The community person in me says, let's make the community feel safe. The cop in me wants to put bad guys in jail. So I think we can address both of those. Those are not mutually exclusive options, but I think we need to make sure that we prioritize ourselves. If we can nail this guy down or this group down, put him in jail, it sends a message to everybody else too. A good arrest is kind of like a terrorist bomb. Doesn't have to hurt anybody, but if we put the bad guy in jail, the message goes out. No, that may not be the place. They got a good police department. They got a great chief and everything else. So, yes, sir.
I live in one of the townhouse communities here too, and is it better to have a motion sensor, say, in your backyard for the sliding doors, or is it better to keep the light on all night?
Motion sensors, his question was, is it better to have a motion sensor in your backyard near your sliding door or keep a light on all night? The one advantage to a motion sensor is when it's off, you know there's nobody there. When it's on, you know somebody is back there or something is wrong. And so it alerts you and gives you an early warning system. Yes, sir? Yes, sir.
I went and bought this weekend. I think our association will let me put it in.
I can't see what it is, I'm sorry.
It's a motion sensor light for the back door. But we have regulations in our community, and we're not supposed to do anything to the outside. Is there something that can be adapted to the existing light, or do we literally have to, does anybody know about this? Does anybody, can you adapt like a motion sensor to adapt to the existing light?
Yeah.
On most of them, you can put a motion detector in your socket. If it's a screw-in lamp, like a flood lamp, you can put a motion sensor in that.
As a homeowners association person, just ask your association, they may give you a variance.
He said just ask the association and they may give you a variance on it. Yes, sir.
Just one quick question is that, like, goes his light, you talk about infrared cameras, motion lights, but the majority of our crimes that we've had have been daytime. They're not nighttime. We're addressing a lot at night here, but of the 9 related things, you had 5 in one out of 6 one place, 4 another one. So you have 9 related things. They're all in the day. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct, but nighttime cameras do serve a purpose as well. What you're better served at is having a dual purpose camera, one that has night vision, but also addresses a daytime
I just
case.
want to make sure we're not seeing any crimes and stuff that pick up at night.
One of the burglaries that is included in the pattern occurred at nighttime. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And has the Darien Police Department either reduced or curtailed some of the radar detection in order to get more of a presence in the subdivisions?
Yes, sir. And his question was, has the Darien Police Department reduced some of the radar detection in order to do more in the subdivision? What that amounts to is a matter of prioritizing crime. Or is it better for us to catch one guy speeding or prevent 2 burglaries? And so that's what the priority is. It's not that we're going to walk away from traffic enforcement, but it's just a matter of prioritizing crime and making a stronger determination on what we do with discretionary and unallocated time. Way in the back, somebody in the back. Somebody. Yes?
I want you to clear up the idea of registering your cameras, your surveillance cameras, because I've heard that some people do not want to register their cameras because they have a feeling of Big Brother. It's true.
Okay. The question is about registering your private video surveillance camera because it's the sense is there's a sense that it's too Big Brother-ish. Well, ultimately, what the camera registration does, and here's how that works: the camera your private video surveillance system remains your property, as it always has been, as it always will be. When you register with the Darien Police Department, and ultimately what happens if there's an incident that occurs near the residence of a registered camera holder, we contact that owner and say, can we look at your footage? And if it's something pertinent of evidentiary value, then we download it and we use it for evidence. And that's the extent of the registration purpose. Yes, sir.
We did that, you might want to mention that one situation where an individual had a private security camera and we asked if you could see it, and as a result, we caught a perpetrator who was going around trying to get into people's house.
We, earlier this year, as a matter of fact, there was a private surveillance system available, and it captured an individual going from car to car to car, flipping door handles to see which one was unlocked. We were able to do some really creative things, and we wound up getting him rearrested. So, exactly, he was also charged with a residential burglary as well. So these systems will pay off. It's just a matter of all of us giving a buy-in to it. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of time do these criminals do, the burglars? Because obviously there's so many burglaries. If they're caught, where they just enter your residence, they're quick in and out, and you catch them. What kind of time, and should we be afraid afterwards, once these criminals come out for retaliation? Is there statistics on that?
No. Her question was what kind of time do burglars get, and should there be some fear when you prosecute a burglar that when he gets out that he'll come and retaliate? The answer is, to the first part, is that we have the advantage of putting criminals away in DuPage County. And that's not to disparage Cook County, but Cook County has a much higher population and much higher crime rate than we do. Bad guys get time that's commensurate with their offense in DuPage County. And so that's one advantage we have. I'm unaware, with 30 plus years of law enforcement experience, of a career burglar or a professional burglar who's been incarcerated ever coming back to the location where he was caught and attempting to intimidate or otherwise harm the victim. So that here again, burglars don't want people contact. They're not social creatures, for lack of a better word. Question? Yes, sir.
So I live in Bailey Park. It's a townhouse community. we all have the same type of alarm system. And I was told that if somebody destroys your phone system, your wiring on the back, that your alarm system will go out.
It depends on what kind of system you have. There are wireless alarm systems. If they're hooked to your phone, some are hooked to cell phones. If your phone is out, my alarm system is hooked to my Comcast telephone. And so if my Comcast goes down, then my alarm is out. So naturally, I'm on the phone swearing a lot at Comcast if my phone goes out. So what we want to do is make sure that we're monitoring that if it does go out for whatever reason, that it doesn't stay down for long, because that is definitely a particular option. And somebody in the back earlier mentioned redundancy. You don't want to rely on one singular system. You want to have multiple systems. Now, before we move forward, one of the things I want to say is the last point that I said that we wanted to take away from this discussion tonight is that having 4 burglaries on one day and having a pattern of 7 burglaries included in that pattern is a reason to be concerned, not to be afraid. And so when we leave here, there are people being burglarized all over DuPage. Our job, our goal, is to make sure that Darien is not an attractive place to commit a burglary. We can win that fight. That's not something, we may not reduce them all, we may not eliminate it. My magic number is 0. If we don't get to 0, if we get to 2, we're ahead of the game, but then we're headed in the right direction. So we have to trust one another. You have to trust your police department. I have to trust you guys that we're going to be able to work collaboratively to resolve this and not let the bad guys make us afraid where we won't leave home or where we won't we won't answer the doors. So we can win this fight, but we have to do it collectively. There's never been a circumstance where the police and the community have collaboratively worked on any problem where the community didn't win. There's never been that circumstance. Alderman.
I just wanted to mention diligence. A lot of people are here tonight. We had 4 burglaries that upset a lot of people. I got a lot of emails from a lot of people concerned about that. So we're here tonight, and that really pushed the issue. We have a tendency sometimes to feel to just go, we catch the guy, he goes away, and 6 months from now it happens again, and we wonder why it happens. Why? Possibly because we're not as diligent over that 6 months period. We get comfortable again, we don't call when we see something suspicious. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of 911 calls over the next several weeks. My hope is that if people really want to address this, they have to stay diligent all the time. That if you see something suspicious, it can't be just depending on your neighbor to be the one who calls when they see something suspicious, but you have to be the one who calls when you see something suspicious. Or else, I mean, we'll catch the bad guys, but then 6 months from now, it can start up again unless we maintain that diligence.
The Alderman brings up an excellent point, and it's something, the whole goal here is to do something that serves us into the long run from now on, so that this is permanently a bad place to commit burglaries, a bad place to commit burglaries to the motor vehicle, a bad place to commit damage to property. That's our goal. And the things that we've talked about here tonight are all designed to make us safe down the line, not just for a little while, or not just until the memory of this anomaly wears off. We can win, but we have to be vigilant from now on. I mentioned earlier locking up your cars, locking up your houses, not making it look like you have patterns, making sure your house always looks occupied. These things, don't let these things slip, folks. You guys all have packages, and if you didn't, please notify me. I'll get you a packet of tips and clues, and we can win. We can win. Any more questions? You know, you contact Stacy Sherman at S. Sherman. It's 2 S's, S. Sherman at Darienil, DARIENIL.gov. Or you can contact by telephone at 630-353-8145. Those are on the front sheet of one of the handouts as well.
Where's the sign-in sheet?
I don't know. Where are the sign-in sheets? They've gone around. Okay, there's one right. Okay. Yeah, there's some that are split up. You know, before you guys leave the room, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you folks coming out. I want to tell you how much I appreciate your input, your responses, your questions, your attentiveness. I can't attribute this just to because we've had some burglaries. This is what civic concern is all about, and this is also the first step towards defeating this problem. So I want to thank you guys for coming out, and I'm excited. My numbers are also on the front of one of those sheets. If you don't have a sheet, or if you've missed it some kind of way, it's 630-353-8315. I'm sorry, 8351. It's been a long day. 630-353-8351.